I think when you can be open and honest, and especially between both genders, and you can really learn about, with your male friends, what might your husband be thinking? With your female friends, what might your wife be thinking? And really pushing those boundaries and saying, let's bring up topics about sex, let's bring up topics about affairs, let's bring up topics about things that just are generally not spoken about. Some of the things that I've written about so far on my blog and kind of tried to open up some of these ideas and stuff is really that I think because as a society we have always been very hush-hush, especially in our lives, in the lifestyle side of things. Business stuff, we tend to be a little bit more open with people. But when it comes to our day-to-day life, I mean, the way I kind of look at it as, even for me, I think that, I was given a Martha Stewart magazine. This is the analogy I like, years ago. And it's like, okay, so I'm going to go to work and I'm going to do what I have to do, and I'm going to make money, and I'm going to do all of these things. I've always been very career-driven. But wait a second, I still need to make sure that I get married at a certain time and have kids and get the house and make sure that I have the cars and I have the garden just so and all these things. And then, 15 years after being married, you kind of go, wait a second, somebody gave me the wrong magazine. And you start to look at your life a little bit differently. And I don't think that I'm alone in that. I think that many, many people get to a certain point in their life where they realize that they may have been living to someone else's ideals. And because we don't talk about this stuff openly and no one ever admits, years ago, could you imagine your grandmother or your grandfather opening up to you and saying, I had a midlife crisis, I had an identity crisis, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, I had issues in my marriage, I had this. We never talk about those really personal things, and so people start to think that they're abnormal somehow, when really they're not. They're actually very normal, and a lot of these things that happen are very, very normal. And I think by opening that door and starting to talk about these things, then we maybe won't have those such issues where you think people are just so repressed. Many of them are repressed because they feel they have to be. I think that's really what this all came from. I've always loved to write, and you've known me long enough to know I've always liked to talk too. And I think part of it is that I have part of my disorder is that I just kind of say whatever is on my mind.
Which is really hurts.
I can.
Yeah, I've been on the other side of that.
You have been on the other side of it, and I never mean it to hurt, and I never mean to be too abrupt with people, because I think I'm actually a very caring person, and I love people, and I love hearing their stories, and I really do try to be a good friend and be there for people. And I think part of just who I am is I let it out, and I don't really hold back, and I appreciate that in others as well. And from that honesty, sometimes perhaps too pure an honesty, it really does open a lot of barriers, and you find out information.
But it was very popular for a long time that as soon as something was going wrong in any relationship, and that includes relationships at work with your kids or whatever, that all of a sudden there had to be a villain and a victim.
Right. It can't possibly just be that this is life, and that perhaps, unveiling some of these deep, dark secrets that people have really allows you to realize that you're not abnormal, and that maybe some of these feelings are very natural. Maybe if we talked about them earlier, we could prevent things from getting worse and worse, or not. Sometimes, as far as relationships go, it's kind of like the unspoken word. Well, my husband would never think about another woman. My wife would never think about another man. Really any topic you can come up with that allows us to be open with each other and say, well, this is how I think. And I mean, for women especially, it shouldn't be about, it's not all, when we're talking amongst ourselves, it's not always, oh, he's so cute, oh, he's so this. It's okay for women to talk about sex, not just, he's cute, he's this. Why is it that traditionally it hasn't been something that we can actually discuss, and that women's needs change, men's needs change? I think if we were more open about that stuff, it would actually make a lot of us feel better about life. I think a lot of people actually retreat into themselves, become very, very depressed, have major issues. I think a lot of suicide could probably be prevented if people didn't think that they were alone in their feelings in this world.